In 5 days from now, MPs will vote on the Brexit deal, the vote that will not only decide Britain's future in Europe, but the future of the Prime Minister. It has already precipitated a constitutional crisis in Parliament. Theresa May lost 3 important votes in a matter of hours on Tuesday. And she will lose again next Tuesday on the crucial vote, or so the parliamentary arithmetic tells us. That is the vote on the deal that she spent the last couple of years negotiating with the EU. The deal that spells out the terms of our withdrawal from Europe. And then what? Well, Mrs May is with me. Good morning, Prime Minister.
Good morning, John.
Now, I said the vote on Tuesday, but I read this morning that many of your cabinet ministers, or at least some of them, are saying we must delay the vote. Is there anything in that?
We're going to have. We're in the middle of 5 days of debate in Parliament, which will lead up to a vote on this issue. And if I may, John, in your introduction there, you said that what people are voting on is our withdrawal from the European Union. They're voting on the deal that I've negotiated. And this is a good deal for the UK because it's got 2 parts to it. And this is why I wanted to pick your point up. Part of it is about the withdrawal from the European Union, but the other part is about our future and our future relationship with the European Union. What this deal does is it delivers on the referendum. It delivers on sovereignty by ensuring the Court of Justice doesn't have jurisdiction in the UK anymore. It delivers on not sending vast sums of money to the EU every year. It delivers on an end to free movement. But the reason you asked the question about Parliament is because there are concerns about part of that withdrawal bit of the deal, which is what's come to be called the backstop. And I recognise that there are those concerns, but there are just 2 points, if I may, to make about this. First of all, any deal, any agreement, any arrangement that we came to with the European Union would involve a backstop. So people talk about let's have a Norway or let's have a Canada. Everything involves a backstop. And secondly, none of the other arrangements that people have put forward fully deliver on the referendum. This deal delivers on the referendum.
All right, pick up on some of that in a moment. Let's go back to my original question. Is there any possibility, have you even considered, has it been recommended to you that you, one way or the other, delay the vote happening next Tuesday evening?
No, what we're doing at the moment, John, is...
I know what you're doing, and I'm just wondering whether it's possible that you might delay it.
No, what I'm saying is what I'm doing is leading up to a vote on Tuesday.
I understand that.
Because we're having the debate. Yes, I'm meeting colleagues, I'm listening to colleagues' concerns.
About this particular issue, about delaying it?
Well, not about delaying it. I'm listening to colleagues' concerns around this issue, this aspect of our withdrawal, which is the backstop. Now, the backstop is our guarantee to the people of Northern Ireland. It's a guarantee about not having a hard border between Northern Ireland and Ireland. But I recognise there are concerns from colleagues about the role of Parliament, about the sovereignty of the UK in relation to that issue. So I'm talking to colleagues about how Parliament might have and how we can look at Parliament having a role in the going into that and if you like, and the coming out of that.
Well, Parliament's already decided for itself that it will have a role. The question really is what you can offer Parliament now that you haven't already offered them to satisfy them, because you don't have the support in Parliament, as you very well know at the moment, to get it through.
Oh, I think you said Parliament has made its view on its role clear. No, that's what this debate and the vote is about, Parliament looking at this deal. And
Parliament, well, just for the benefit of the listeners, Parliament has basically said, hasn't it, if you fail, then Parliament takes over.
Now, there have been some attempts to, and there are continuing, if you look at some of the proposals that have been put forward in relation to amendments to the vote next week, attempts to take off the table certain possibilities. But actually there are 3 options here. As we go ahead, there are 3 options. One is to leave the European Union with a deal. I've negotiated a deal. The EU have made it clear it's the deal. But it's not just the deal, it's a good deal, and it's a deal that delivers on the referendum.
And the problem with that deal is that you haven't sold it to Parliament.
Sorry, John, I said there were 3 options. You only let me talk about one of them. If I can remind everybody what the other 2 are, because the other 2 are that we leave without a deal, or that we have no Brexit at all. And I'm absolutely clear that we have a duty to deliver on the vote of the British people in 2016, and that was a vote in the referendum to leave the EU.
And the problem with that is that you are unable, have been unable thus far, and there's no reason to suspect that it's going to change in the next few days, unable to sell it to Parliament, or at least to enough MPs to carry it on Tuesday evening.
Well, we haven't actually had the vote yet,
no,
John.
No, that's true, but you can do the arithmetic as well as I can.
But when it comes to that vote, I think what MPs will be thinking of, as I say, there are three options that are available to people. One is that we leave the EU with a deal, and this is a good deal, and it does deliver on the referendum, or that we have no deal. And, there are some people who say, well, let's take no deal off the table. But actually, the only way to take no deal off the table is to have a deal and to agree the deal. Some, and there are some, if you listen to the debate that takes place in Parliament, if you've listened to the many questions I've been asked in Parliament at PMQs and when I made statements to the House of Commons on this issue, it's clear that there are those in the House of Commons who want to frustrate Brexit. I think actually the opposition are doing that. The opposition are just trying to
and many of your own colleagues,
Brexit.
Of course.
No, but there are those who also want to frustrate Brexit and overturn the vote of the British people. That's not right.
Should you, are you thinking of giving them a separate vote on the backstop? Is that feasible?
The backstop is an integral part of the withdrawal agreement.
So you can't separate it. That cannot be done.
As I said earlier, the backstop's an integral part of the withdrawal agreement, but the backstop would be an integral part of any withdrawal agreement and of any deal that was negotiated with the European Union. And that's because we are committed. Yes, the EU concerned from the point of view of, obviously, Ireland's a member of the EU, but we're committed to delivering for the people of Northern Ireland. They're part of the UK.
The problem is you have not been able, and I've said this before in this interview, you have not been able to persuade enough of your colleagues in Parliament, in your own party and in the opposition, that it is the right deal. Therefore, it is highly likely, inevitable, many people believe, that on Tuesday night it will be voted down. Do you have any sort of plan B if, some people say when, that happens?
Well, as I've already explained, there are three options
you
that people can look at.
Indeed you have.
Three options that people can look at.
Yep.
And actually, I think that question is not for me. That question is for those who say that they want to oppose this deal. What are the...
You're saying back me or sack me then, in effect, aren't you?
That question is for those who want to oppose this deal. Because the options are there. There's a deal, no deal, or no Brexit. And I think... my view is that it is I've used the words duty. We've had an instruction from the British people to deliver on Brexit. And I think, the worst thing that could happen from the public's point of view is that we have all these arguments in Westminster, not about whether we're going to leave. We've had the referendum, but about the exact details of how we leave. And the risk is that we end up with no Brexit at all. Now, I'm clear that that should not happen. I'm clear that we must deliver on that vote. I'm clear that we will leave the European Union.
The problem is...
we've got a good deal for leaving the European Union.
Well, that's where people disagree with you. People like, well, let me give you a few quotes. You've heard them many times before. Lord King talking about this being the result of incompetence of a high order, the worst of all worst. Lord Howard, Michael Howard, former Conservative leader himself, the epitome of loyalty to party leaders over the years. He said he voted leave to take back control, but the deal does the opposite of this, and so on and so on. You've heard all of these points made over and over again, and it seems to some people that you are simply not listening.
No, John, I am listening, but if I may, this deal is in two parts. It's the withdrawal agreement and it's the future relationship with the EU. The withdrawal is about how we come out of 45 years of membership of the European Union. The future relationship, the political declaration on the future relationship, is about where we will be as a country in the future, what our relationship with them will be in the future when we've left. And it's there, crucially, that exactly the points that you've just quoted at me, we make absolutely clear that we take back our sovereignty. We will be, in that future relationship, laws will be determined in our Parliament and in devolved administrations.
But your own Attorney General, Geoffrey Cox, has said, in effect, as a result of the backstop, you will not be taking back that control.
No, he hasn't said that. What he has said is, and we've been clear from the start on this, there is no unilateral right of pulling out of that backstop. Now, the backstop is something nobody wants to go into in the first place, and we will be working to make sure that we don't go into it. If we get to the point where it might be needed, we have a choice as to what we do. So we don't even have to go into the backstop at that point. So what we're talking about is something that is there to ensure our commitment to the people of Northern Ireland, that there isn't a hard border between them and the people of Ireland, that they can... I mean, what does that mean? It means they can carry on living their lives as they do today.
Except that the Attorney-General himself, Geoffrey Cox, says about the legal advice, the withdrawal agreement cannot provide a legal means of compelling the EU to conclude such an agreement. That agreement being, we decide to leave, we can't because the law will not allow us to leave. It really is that simple, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I've just said that. There is no unilateral right to withdraw from this.
Precisely. So therefore, in what sense are we reclaiming
Kingdom.
our sovereignty in that respect? We're not.
But this is focusing on the backstop and the concern, and I recognise the concern
that
people
was the
have.
crucial part of
Everybody's focusing on well, that's a crucial part of the withdrawal agreement.
Well, and before you've got to get the withdrawal agreement, you won't get anything else. That's the point.
No, this does not set up... You said before we get the withdrawal agreement, we won't get anything else. Actually, what we've done is negotiated, if you like, the set of instructions to the negotiators for the legal text for the future relationship. This is very important. We can't
That's a bit legalistic, all of that, isn't it? The fact is you have to have an agreement from the members of Parliament on the, specifically, as part of the package, as it were, as part of your deal, on the backstop arrangement. They will not give you that. That is a reality. Put aside the legality of it. That is the reality.
We have. You're right. We have to ratify the withdrawal agreement. It's an international treaty.
And they're
not
not going to
ratify that.
No, we can do it.
But it's not just the withdrawal agreement that MPs will be looking at. They'll be looking at the future as well. And yes, there's been a lot of
One
discussion.
step at a time, Prime Minister.
No, well, it's both come together, John.
Well, no, they don't, do they?
Yeah,
Because
yes,
you've
they
already
do.
acknowledged that you've got to have the withdrawal agreement before you can go anywhere else. I mean, that is the prerequisite. And if you fail... Well, let me frame the question in a different way. I mentioned Plan B. You've heard that many, many times. People have said to you, what is the Plan B? You must have given a great deal of thought to what happens in the end if you cannot get your deal through Parliament. Have you given a lot of thought to that? And give us a clue what it might be, what the Plan B might be.
John, what I'm focused on is the deal that we've negotiated with the European Union, which does deliver on the referendum. It does it in a way that protects people's jobs and protects our security for the future. You talk about the separate bits of this. Actually, what MPs will be voting on is the whole package. We'll be voting on the withdrawal agreement, but alongside that withdrawal agreement is a political declaration that sets out our future relationship with Europe.
That's a separate matter from the point of view of the MPs. That is a separate matter.
But it's an important...
Of course it is, but it's separate
an important
from
element
this.
of this, because for most people, actually, I think, for most people listening to this programme, what is going to make the difference between their lives in the future is going to be what relationship we have, what partnership we have with Europe going forward.
Of course.
Now, what we want, what I've negotiated, what the deal delivers, is a partnership which is continuing a good, friendly relationship with Europe, able to trade with them easily, able to secure our security cooperation with them, but also enables us to do good trade deals around the rest of the world and really stand up as global Britain.
And the problem with all of that is your colleagues won't wear it. Parliament will not wear it. That is the problem. And it's not clear to anybody, I think, what happens then. I mean, for instance, do you think it is possible, even desirable in those circumstances, that there should be another referendum?
No, I don't think that there should be another referendum. And the reason is very simple. We gave people the choice in a referendum as to whether to leave the European Union or not. And they gave us a very clear message. They wanted us to leave the European Union. I know you may have spent a lifetime in journalism, John, asking people the same question again and again, hoping to get a different answer. I don't think it's right for Parliament to do that to the people.
Well, is it Parliament doing that to the people, or is it Parliament saying to you, the Prime Minister, we've looked very closely at the agreement you produced, and we simply do not like it, and we don't think it's best for this country. This isn't just a raggle-taggle of half a dozen, extremists in Parliament. This is massive numbers.
Let's be clear about a lot of the people who are calling for a second referendum. A lot of the people who are calling for a second referendum want that because they hope there's going to be a different answer. I don't think that's right. We asked people the question, they gave us the answer. Let's deliver on that first
Well, they want
vote.
it because they think that what you are offering is unacceptable, and many people in this country take that view too.
No, there are many people who are talking about a second referendum. It isn't anything to do with this deal. It's actually about trying to frustrate Brexit. And that's what I think we all need to recognise, there are people in Parliament who are trying to frustrate Brexit. I think that's what the opposition are doing. You might say oppositions will always behave like oppositions, but actually,
very
this is a point.
Of your own.
This is a point
party.
in time. This is a point in time when everybody should be thinking about the national interest. And the national interest is making sure that we leave the European Union, that we deliver on that vote. When we leave next March, it'll be nearly 3 years since the vote of the referendum. The referendum, people were divided between Remainers and Leavers. Now is the time for this country to come back together again. Now is the time for us to say, let's forge our future together. Let's not create more division by going back for another referendum.
And you really believe you can get that through on Tuesday? Because what a lot of people say is clearly the Prime Minister has worked very, very hard at this. It's been a life for the last couple of years. She believes in what she's doing. She's been very, very persistent. Her problem is that she isn't listening to any of the other arguments. And that's your difficulty.
I am listening, and I have been listening.
But do you accept that?
I have been
that is
listening,
a criticism. Because it doesn't sound as if you have been, because you keep saying, this is the only answer I've got for you. Come what may, whatever the circumstances.
What we have been listening, which is why we have been very careful about elements of the withdrawal agreement and the political declaration for the future that we have negotiated. So take an issue that was of great concern to people in the UK when we went into the European Economic Community in the first place, how our fishermen had been dealt with. I've listened very carefully to the fishing industry, to colleagues, to members of Parliament who represent seats with real fishing interests about the importance of that. And that's why we have rigorously and robustly defended our fishing industry in the negotiations that we've had and will continue to do so. So we have been listening. I've said earlier, I've recognised there are concerns about the backstop, but I think the question that we need to ensure, that the question we're asking ourselves is, as I say, there are three options.
Yes,
a deal, no deal, or no Brexit. And what I don't want to see is us finding that Parliament in some way frustrates Brexit. We must deliver on that vote that took place in the referendum.
We are where we are, and if on Tuesday night, many people would say when, as I repeat, on Tuesday night, Parliament says no to you, Parliament, including many very senior, distinguished members of your own party, say no to you, you are going to say back to them, well, I'm sorry, that's it. It has to be a hard Brexit. You won't settle for another referendum, so it has to be a hard Brexit. Is that what you're actually saying to them after all this time?
John, what I'm saying is that we're in the middle of the debate about this vote. Yes, there's lots of commentary about the vote. I'm listening to colleagues about their particular concerns around the backstop. That's why I said
you say
earlier,
you're listening to them, but you've given nothing to them. They've told you what they want, and at least some of them have, and you've given them nothing in return, is what they say. They say you just keep repeating the same mantra.
No, what I think I said earlier in the interview, that what we're looking at is this question around the backstop of the role of Parliament.
Well, all right, explain to me if you would then.
Sovereignty in relation to this. People's concerns are that on this backstop issue, that the EU will be able to. Their concern is the EU could hold us in it for longer than we want to be in it.
So tell me what the role of Parliament in that might be then.
Well, that's what I'm talking.
Yes, but how would it work? How would it work in practice?
Well, that's what I'm looking at the moment and talking to people about. The extent to which Parliament would be able to have the decision, because, as I also said earlier, the backstop is talked about as if it's automatic. Actually, it's not automatic. There is a choice. Even, first of all, we don't intend to get to the point where we need to use it. Because we want the future
I understand
in
all
place.
of that, but
if we do need to use it, there's a choice to be made. And what I'm looking at the question of the role of Parliament in that choice, and then what would happen thereafter, because people are concerned about how long we might be in.
Indeed. So can I just explore with you in a little bit of detail, not too much clearly, what might that role of Parliament consist of? What could MPs do now that you've agreed the backstop arrangement with your colleagues in Brussels, and that is part of the deal that you have presented, and will be part
of any deal.
And we're all right.
Be absolutely clear about this. There is no deal without a backstop.
Let's not have an argument about that. But you say the role of Parliament in the backstop. What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, as I've just said, I think there are questions about how decisions are taken as to whether we go into the backstop, because that isn't an automatic. Well, I've just said it's not an automatic. If we get to the point where we need to have an arrangement to make sure we have this guarantee, we're guaranteeing this commitment to the people of Northern Ireland that there's no hard border between Northern Ireland and Ireland. The point at which that would be necessary, if it happens, is with the future relationship, which we're negotiating the legal text of. You said it's a bit legalistic. It is legalistic in one sense, but we can't do that legal text negotiation till after we've left. So if that hasn't completed by the end of December 2020, we need this continued guarantee for people in Northern Ireland for an interim period. The question is, do we go into the backstop? Do we extend what I call the implementation period? It's become known as a transition period.
So in other words,
right.
So the possibility
that has to be taken at that point in time. And what we negotiated is that actually it's for the UK to choose which of those we want to go into. Now we have to agree the terms. If we want to extend the transition period, we have to agree the terms of that with the European Union. But there are these questions about how you go in, and then how you, if you're in the backstop, whether that continues, what the regulations are in there. All of these issues that I'm exploring, and I'm exploring in terms of the sovereignty of the UK, the role of Parliament in being able to have their say in that.
But to be absolutely clear, the transition period, which is due to end at the end of the year after next, that could be extended. What, without limit, while we continue to discuss the backstop? Is that what
No, the withdrawal agreement says it could be extended for up to 1 or 2 years.
And that's it?
That's the implementation.
And as things stand, you favour that?
No, I didn't say that.
You seem to imply that you did, because you said you're looking for alternatives, because you seem, if I may say so, to have accepted that you're not going to win on Tuesday. I know you haven't said that in terms.
I haven't said that, John, at all.
All right,
don't put words in. You may also have spent a journalistic career trying to put words in other people's mouths.
I wouldn't dream of doing such a thing. But what you do seem to be saying is that there is an argument, given the concern in Parliament, there is an argument for extending the transition period.
There will be a choice between, if we get to that point, a choice between going into the backstop and extending the transition period. Now, there are pros and cons of both sides of that. People have a concern at the backstop that we could be in it indefinitely. But in the backstop, we have no financial obligations, we have no free movement, we have very light level playing field rules with the EU. In the implementation period, we still have to negotiate the terms, but there will be concerns about the fact that they would require I'm sure they would require some more money to be paid, for example. So there would be arguments on different sides.
And you would be happy for Parliament to adjudicate on that?
That's what I think. People are concerned about the role of the UK in making these decisions, and the obvious in terms of the role of the UK is for it to be Parliament that makes these decisions.
So it might well be that you'll be back here in a year's time, still as Prime Minister, while Parliament is discussing backstop arrangements and the like.
John, I hope to be back here possibly more times before, because I do come into your studio, which is more than Jeremy Corbyn does.
Amen.
I hope to be back in the Today programme more times, explaining why my government is doing other things for people, like the announcement we've got today on the mental health report.
Indeed.
Like the money we're putting into the National Health Service, like the changes we're seeing in schools, like the changes in technical education for young people.
But just leave us, if you want, not chucking you out, but I'm suggesting that your last answer might be perhaps, question rather, when will we be out of the European Union?
We formally leave the membership.
I know when we formally leave, but given what you've just been saying, extending transition.
No, we leave the membership of the European Union on the 29th of March 2019. The point of the transition is to enable people and employers to be able to have a smooth exit so that we don't see disruption to jobs and we minimise the disruption from our
Therefore,
leaving.
we might add a year or two onto that.
I think that is important. I don't want us to be having that transition period beyond the end of December 2020, because I want us to be going into the future relationship. I want us to go into the future relationship at the beginning of January 2021, and that's what I'm going to be working for.
Prime Minister, thank you very much.